I pray that time will forgive me and my brothers what we did. And only those lumping pigs behind those closed doors will have to suffer, and not the young kids and the unborn kids.
Right on, bro.
Paul F. Ware, Spec 4 Army, retired. I've taken in 9 Purple Hearts, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Army Commendation, and a lot of other shit. This is for my brothers. Right on, right on.
My name is Tyson from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's with a great deal of pleasure I return the Bronze Star and several other of these pieces of garbage.
Sal Graziano, New York. I don't want your fucking war.
Robert Jones, New York. I symbolically return all Vietnam medals and other service medals given me by the power structure that has genocidal policies against non-white peoples of the world.
Right on.
All power to the people.
Ignorance against the war.
We know what we're marching for.
We know what we're marching for.
Time to put the guns away.
Time to put the guns away.
Time to try another way.
Time to try another way.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
You're a Vietnam vet?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you feel about this war then?
I think it's the stupidest mistake since Vietnam. And what about the people of the world, Iraq, the people of Iraq and the people of the rest of the world? I mean, we're licensed to slaughter any country we want.
I'm here because I feel a great deal of grief in my soul for our soldiers and their families. I know what they're going through, and our country and the Iraqi people, and I just can't believe we're doing this for the reasons. I'm very mistrustful of our administration's motivations, and I truly believe we could have handled this in a non-aggressive manner. And I took care of the guys in Vietnam. I love them today. And I have a nephew who's in the Marines now, headed for the Gulf. And this is not a statement about them at all, not at all.
About 40 every couple hours yesterday, just regular people. Okay, thank you very much.
I think that the anti-war sentiment, which is just burgeoning, has to be taken into account. I don't know where they're going to take this. It's gotten vital very, very quickly. The treatment and the attitudes I have gleaned from just about everybody about the troops is much, much, much different. One thing that we had to face when we came back was not only our conscience about what was going on with the war, but with a lot of hatred directed directly at us, personally at us, for what we had done. And I am not seeing this at all. I am not seeing this at all. Everybody, the high school kids, the anarchists, the veterans, the mothers, everybody seems to really understand that our troops are very, very important. And I think that in that respect, it is totally different. I think that we are not seeing some of the ugly rhetoric. Everybody is very clear that there's a problem with Saddam Hussein, I think people are very, very focused on what's important here, and that's not name-calling, that's not rhetoric. It is to stop this war.
Vietnam?
Yeah, Vietnam, 61.
How come you actually did that?
To protest this war, to murder the people in Iraq.
How do you feel about being a vet in Vietnam?
Well, you know, I feel good. I hope it can do some good to stop it.
Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina.
You came up here for this?
Yeah. It's not nothing but oil. It's an oil thing between George Bush and Iraq. That's all it is. It's not about no threat to this country or security of this country. It's about oil.
How do you feel about the troopies over there now?
Well, I don't think they should be there. They shouldn't be there because, you know, no one is going to win. We're going to lose loved ones over there, and they're going to lose too. So no man needs to die for war.
I'm against this war because I feel that the Bush doctrine that came out in August is being followed, and that it's a doctrine for preemption, it's a doctrine for unilateralism, and it's really a doctrine for America to bully the rest of the world, and that's not what I think America stands for. And it's our voice, I guess, that I'm hoping we can speak out with. That as vets, we have a special voice, and we're raising it today. Thanks. You know, the guys aren't making the policy, and they're doing a good job, and we support the guys. Nobody here doesn't support the guys. It's not a question of supporting the guys, but dissent is patriotic, as I've got on my pin, and the fact of the matter is that we're giving some dissent, and I think it's an important voice to have there, and we're not chickens, and we're not unpatriotic, but we are speaking out in the greatest American tradition for what we believe.
Why are you here today?
To protest this senseless war that our coward president has gotten us into.
You were in Vietnam?
Right. Me up here. This is my son in the Persian Gulf.
How do you feel about the troops in the field right now?
I'd like to see them bring them home today. Get them out of there. We support the troops, but not the war.
Now or in the future. Support our troops by bringing them home.
Yeah.
Right.
Bring them home! Alive! Bring them home! Alive! Bring them home! Alive! Bring them home! Alive!
This was written by a Korean War combat veteran by the name of Wally Meyer from Connecticut. When the bombs fall on Baghdad, I shall be in mourning because my country has lost its way. Once a beacon of hope for the world, we have now become the symbol of reckless power. We accept no advice or counsel from others. We are embarking, and we have embarked, on a preemptive war with little support, and I fear that we shall act that way again and again. When the bombing begins, I shall be wearing a black armband to show my grief for the path my country has taken. Please join me and show the sorrow that so many of us feel. We mourn the loss of innocence when dawn emerges over battlefields, now quiet, choked with smoke and the smell of death. We mourn the all but extinguished promise of the rule of international law, wrested from the world's grasp by the fists of a powerful few. We mourn the dismantling of democracy as we submit our civil rights to terror. We mourn the loss of political courage that strangled our voices in the halls of Congress.
Okay, the basic plan of action for Operation Dire Distress. We will line up in a line along here, straight, lined up, and we will be sending initially the first wreath-laying team up to the Vietnam Memorial. We will stand in solemn attention while bagpiper plays. Once they return from laying the wreath at the Vietnam Memorial, we'll proceed over here along the reflecting pool to the site of the World War II Memorial where we'll lay a wreath, and then we'll proceed back to the Korean Memorial. From then we will go on the street and march to the VA. At the VA we will lay a wreath for those the Veterans Administration has turned their backs on who are now sick or dead. After that we'll march to the ellipse for our rally and ceremony. A team will be sent to the White House to attempt to deliver the Veterans Against Iraq War petition, and every veteran will have a chance to come forward. We have a body bag that people can put whatever they think is appropriate in to express their sorrow, their anger, their outrage, or their shame.
I was in Baghdad twice is a heavily settled city with high buildings. When you see those plumes, you know that dozens of people are being killed. Yeah, it's horrible to look at TV and some of the buildings I recognize and realize that they're being wiped out.
No, we do that all the time. I do it deliberately.
I'm a son of a veteran of the Vietnam War. My dad's David Tuggle out of Newcastle, Indiana. He spent 3.5 years there, helicopters and stuff. And he can't be here, and I live up in Germantown, so I might as well come down here and, you know, I'm protesting the war, and I'm doing it because I'm doing it in spirit for the rest of my family, because I'm the only one that's here, you know. So it makes me feel good. Just one of them things. But I appreciate it. I dig being here, and I met a lot of cool people, you know, all ages, races, little kids, people that blind, walking around, just doing the same thing, you know. But appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
Flowers of the forest in memory of those we lost in the Vietnam War.
We lay this wreath to honor the dead and to continue our struggle to fight for the living.
Amen.
We are here to bring our troops home so they do not engage in the Bush agenda for the next war, be it Korea, be it Iran, who knows where. He is bent on an agenda of world domination, and that's why we want these boys home now.
We got together Veterans Against the Iraq War as a coalition of individuals and organizations to pull together, because what veterans' voices need to be heard in this on this issue. Many of us been to war. We know what the government's about. We know the lies that the government tells. And now we're trying to stop another generation of young men and women from being sent to fight and die for lies again. We say no blood for oil, bring the troops back home now.
Bring our boys home alive.
Where are you from?
Here in Washington.
So why did you come out, I mean, specifically today?
Because I'm a veteran, because I'm anti-war, because I'm pro-peace, and I don't want to see any more bloodshed. We've already lost enough of our men over there, and I don't want to see us lose any more.
Did being a veteran make you, I guess, anti-war necessarily?
Yes. When I got out, I became very much anti-war. In 1970, I marched in 70 and 71 against the war, and now I'm marching again.
We'll do a solemn 30 seconds.
I've got children, I've got grandchildren, I've got great-grandchildren. And I don't want any more of them going through this crap. And it is crap, it's all avoidable. I'm sorry about the language.
Is this a failure of the political system in this country, or is this...
It's a failure of the will to subordinate oneself to something bigger than oneself. I don't know how many people will understand that, but when I was a youngster, I was very ego-driven. And, of course, that was played upon by my leaders to make a warrior out of me, okay? Now I'm not quite so ego-driven, I hope, okay? And I would expect my leaders to be a little less ego-driven and more concerned about the people that they are supposed to be leading and serving, and not just using for their purposes. And I feel that way about the troops out there. They're being used for somebody's purpose. I don't really feel that they are being served by their administration and by their leaders.
I'm embarrassed about what we're doing around the world and attacking a country that never attacked us. Why should we attack somebody who hasn't really got the capability of really doing any serious damage to the United States? And I served so long for that principle, and now we're just trashing it around the world and in our own country. Human rights, civil rights in the United States are being denied in a number of ways by Mr. Ashcroft, something that's not done since World War I, I believe. Well, yeah, there are oppressed people in Iraq, but there are oppressed people in Korea and China and Ireland, where I come from. There's no American troops liberating us, our friends over there.
As we proceed through the city to give out leaflets to the passersby.
War will mean that soldiers die. War will mean that mothers cry.
You're right.
You're right. Hey, hey, Uncle Sam. We remember Vietnam. There is one thing you should know. Wave the flag when you attack. When you come home, they turn their back. When you come home, they turn their back. You're right. You're right.
Thank you for serving our country.
Join us and show your support. Hey, Uncle Sam. We remember Vietnam. We remember Vietnam. We don't want no Iraq war. This is what we're marching for.
Cheney, Roosevelt, Ashcroft, Hall. Bush's purpose, smell it fall. Bush's process, smell it fall.
Marching past the VA to McPherson Square, where we'll hold a rally and lay a wreath for those that have died or are still sick due to toxic contamination, and have the government turning their back on them.
Bush went AWOL, you should go too. Bush went AWOL, you should go too. Bush went AWOL, you should go too. Bush went AWOL, you should go too.
What they're really talking now, they're using the word preemption for what is really preventive war or just plain aggression. War at the will of the president whenever he thinks that it's in national interests, which seem magically always to converge with what presidents see as their own domestic political interests. So I'm afraid that this doctrine is actually new in being a blatant recipe for trying to legitimate American aggression. However, the protest of people in America as well as around the world, I think, has stripped any cloak of legitimacy from this. No authorization from the UN. Thanks, I think, to the public protest in so many different countries. They just weren't able to give in to the US's bribes, intimidation, persuasion, coercion. They weren't able to vote with us, and in that way, they showed this war up as clear, blatant aggression. And I think that will help prevent other wars. It will keep the value alive that aggression is inherently criminal.
I'd like to start with a moment of silence for the veterans who aren't with us today. Thank you. My name is Seth Pollock. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a veteran of the Gulf War. I was in the United States Army for 8 years. We are here today to honor the memories of our sisters and brothers who did not return from the first Gulf War. For the 9,600 Gulf War veterans who have died since returning from that war, and for the over 263,000 service members who have looked to their government for medical support as a result of their service in that war. We are also here to show our support and utmost respect
for those who are currently in harm's way in Iraq, Afghanistan, and around the world.
You fly the flag upside down under conditions of imminent threat to life or to property. War is the ultimate imminent threat. So our nation is under distress. The name of this was Operation Dire Distress. We were the good guys. We defended people. The aggressors, the ones who attacked, were the bad guys. Today we're the aggressor.
In his youth, the president joined the National Guard to keep from going to Vietnam. Then he went AWOL from the Guard. Now he turns my lessons upside down and sends the children of my friends and neighbors into the wrong war at the wrong place at the wrong time. Do you think I support the troops? Yes! All right. Do you think I support the troops? Yes! 1 out of every 3 veterans of Desert Shield and Desert Storm is rated disabled by the Veterans Administration. The VA says it doesn't know what happened to them, and the Pentagon just doesn't say. But the president does propose to cut the VA's budget, and the Senate Majority Leader says veterans will have to make sacrifices to help pay for this war. Do you think I'd support the troops?
Yes. George Bush was not our elected president. Okay, keep talking. Keep talking. Okay. Yeah. But I just ask you all to stay out here and march and keep on marching. We have a Bush doctrine that we have to get there and fight against. He's going to continue to go from one country to another. And we need to get there and stay strong and grow in numbers and to keep on standing for what is patriotic. And being patriotic is getting there and saying, we are not an aggressor nation. I'm all for defending our soil, but not for getting there and destroying other people on their soil for no good reason.
That's why I have this war criminal thing on here, because this is an unprovoked war that unprovoked war of aggression. And I thought that was the type of thing that the UN Charter was opposed to, and that we're opposed to as American citizens.
It's been almost 30.
Well, I think like all of the veterans who are here today, World War II, Korea, Persian Gulf, and Vietnam, there's only one lesson in war, and that's to fight for peace, acceptance, and understanding. You know, a lot of people use the word tolerance. I don't use the word tolerance. I tolerate a headache. I use the word acceptance. We have to accept people in spite of their differences because we live in a democracy, and we're here to prevent the crimes that occurred during the Vietnam War.
These women are the real heroes of the Vietnam War, and any man who served in combat will tell you that that is the truth. And I am here to tell you that I am so honored to be standing in between these two women. It is because of women like them that I am here today to fight for peace. All of you know that true patriots stand united against their government when they believe their government is wrong. The original patriots of our country were men and women who stood together. They loved their country like we do. They loved their country enough to fight against their government. And that's a really important thing. That's a very serious thing. We don't want to be here. As it has said before, I'd rather be back in Jersey City, where my stepfather is in a coma right now. But my stepfather is a big man, 6'2", 240 pounds. But he is a man that loves peace. And I know that he would have wanted me to be here with you today. And so we all have to stick together. We are on the side of right. We are on the side of justice. We are on the side of peace. And our opponents are on the side of death and war. We are the winners. Thank you all very much.
Well, now we got Joe and W to talk to.
I'd like to clarify something about support for the troops. People who are against this war are accused of not supporting the troops. Well, I'd like to tell you something. I was in Vietnam in 1969 to 1970, hanging blood, cleaning wounds, comforting the dying, and a few years later, our current White House occupant didn't even have the good grace to show up for his moral and ethical and patriotic duty. He was AWOL. Now who's the patriot? We are. Okay, now we'll get to what I really want to say. This country is in peril. We are in the most dangerous times of our nation. If ever there was a time to defend our democracy, it is now. If ever there was a time to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, it is now. If ever there was a time, or if ever America needed her sons and daughters to protect her, it is now. Well, Bush has run our economy into the ditch. He has run world opinion that was pro for us into the ditch. We have hundreds of thousands of people around the world marching to protest our government's policy. He has squandered a budget surplus, and instead we now have a $300 billion deficit. He's turned us into a rogue nation in violation of Article 51 of the UN Charter. Boy, oh boy, he's great.
I'm going to bring up the delegation that attempted to take the petition to the White House.
Yeah.
And the person who I'm going to bring up is Stuart Nussbaumer. I don't think if you people know who Stuart is. He's a Vietnam veteran, Marine Corps veteran who lost one of his legs in Vietnam. You may not recognize it by where he walks, but he's missing one leg and has a device there. Stuart took that petition to the White House. Stuart served. George Bush didn't serve. Let's go find out what happened. Stuart Nussbaumer.
Evidently, we can use the White House crapper over there, but they're not interested in our petition. It was rejected. 2,622 veterans this chicken hawk administration is not interested in listening to. That's the end, but it's the beginning for us. We're going to continue.
Yes.
Very discomforted but polite police officer said you could mail it.
Yeah.
Let's mail it. Put it in the mail.
Put it in the Times and the Post.
This is the one addressed to the president. Tomorrow we have another one that's addressed to Congress. We'll be going to Congress and see whether they also say put it in the mail.
My main concern is for the Iraqi children. I think that they are put in a lot of danger, not only by the current conflict, but through 12 years of sanctions in which an infrastructure that supported water systems and electrical generation systems for hospitals was all destroyed in violation of international law. And I feel that they are not the only victims of this crime against humanity, but also our troops who are being put in danger and who probably believe in what they're doing, but because of misinformation and being misled by the Bush administration, their lives are going to be wasted. If not in combat, when they get back, and perhaps they need this government to support them with health benefits, VA benefits. There might be some other type of Gulf War illness that is going to be ignored, so my heart goes out to them.
Now, how do you see this anti-war movement developing? I mean, what does this compare to other things you've experienced in the past?
Well, I was only a kid during the 60s, but I would say that that's part of what I'm seeing now. People that are disagreeing with this government policy and getting out in the streets and doing something about it.
Well, how do you react when there was another demonstration here in Washington a couple of miles from here, which was in support of the troops. How do you react to people who say that a demonstration like this is an unpatriotic act?
Well, I think
patriotism involves confronting your government when you believe in your heart that they're wrong. And as I said earlier, I support the troops and that I care about their safety. And I'm sure everybody here is also concerned about the safety of those troops. But we're also concerned about the safety of the Iraqi people who had nothing to do with Saddam's tyranny and shouldn't pay that price.
Veterans against the war!
Veterans against the war!
We know what we're marching for!
We know what we're marching for!
Time to put the guns away!
Time to put the guns away!
Time to try another way!
Time to try another way!
I don't think war is a righteous thing. It's I think that killing is always wrong. It's a complicated issue, you know. I think as a combat vet, I think that's something that we kind of struggle with.
Daniel Ellsberg.
Thank you. Well, today, for a change, we're sunshine patriots. And we'll be summer soldiers, autumn soldiers, winter soldiers, whatever it takes. As Tom Paine said, forgive the sexist language, it was 227 years ago. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this time of crisis, shrink from the service to their country. He said, tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. But he said the triumph is all the sweeter. There's smiles in this crowd today, and I know why it is. We know, those here know, and I don't go to veterans reunions very often. In fact, this is the best one, the first one almost I've ever been at. But we're also veterans of a peace movement, and we'll be able to get together for a long time and tell peace stories at night. Some of these, and we're smiling to see each other here, knowing what we've learned about patriotism since we were young, since we were very young. We know better. We're not watching the television at the moment because we here don't need to watch television to know what horrors are going on over there. It's not, war is not a video game for us. I didn't want to watch it, as some of you heard me yesterday, because I preferred to be in a jail cell, because I was in Southern California once during the Gulf War, and I saw a cable station there that is all commercials. Nothing but commercials. There'd be half an hour for this, and an hour for sunglasses, and a half an hour for jewelry. And it was nothing but commercials. And I was thinking that was 100-hour or more, that bombing then was 100-hour commercial for war, for weapons. And that's what our media is giving us right now, of course.
We're the vets, and it's our duty, continued duty, to speak out on what we believe. And that's all we can do. It's still a service, it's still our country, and so we're gonna just do what we can. This is my thoughts.
Well, Joe, what battalion did you serve in Vietnam in the Marine Corps?
1st Marine Air Wing.
Oh, so you were a first mile.
First mile, yeah.
And you worked on helicopters or aircraft?
It was missiles. I worked on the Hawk missiles, and we had Da Nang. I was in headquarters, and I went up one day to Alpha Battery the night before. At Alpha Battery, they had a fragging up there and killed all of our staff, the COXO, and wounded the sergeants up there too. And they threw it in that tent.
Now tell people what fragging is. Not everybody may know that term.
That's just what happened here recently with a disgruntled vet and a disgruntled Army guy in the
101st.
In the 101st, that's what he did. They call that a fragging. That was because that is a Vietnam term, I'm sure. But it's when you kill your own people in some way or another, and that's not friendly fire. Friendly fire is when you do it by accident. Right?
Now we're going to get a chance for everyone to say something. We're going to have this body bag held here by these 4 veterans, but I want everyone to come up, make a statement, put in this body bag what you think is appropriate, as something of significance to you, that we will display Like I said before, we considered the idea of taking it to the White House to give it to the president, but then we said, why waste good material on something like that? So we're going to keep using this to display, to show as a record of our veterans' protest here today.
Here's my 29 seconds. I've been watching with a lot of alarm, especially over the last 15 to 20 years, about the erosion of our constitutional rights. It's not. It's both the Democrats and the Republicans have been guilty of it. But I just want to say, with the Patriot I, the Patriot II Act, and the atrocities, the civil liberties atrocities we've been seeing from this administration, that I think that George Bush has killed the U.S. Constitution. So I downloaded it from the internet, and here it is, and I'm going to give it a proper burial, and it's our job to get it back.
My good friend Dave Klein over here, when he discusses Bush, Cheney, Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, Pearl, the whole bunch of them, he calls them chicken hawks. I call them sons of bitches. And here's an American clip that I'm throwing in the bag.
I'm Nia Coomba. I'm with the American Legion, one of the oldest veterans organizations here in America. And first I want to salute each and every one of you for all the families and all the cities and nations and states that you represent, because the whole world is saying no to this invasion of Baghdad with the intent of destroying Iraq and continuing a war of destruction against the global family. I want to salute each and every one of you. And one of the nurses, I'm a retired nurse myself, one of the nurses said that after we do the marching and the advocating, we have to go back and demand that America create a new economy, because that is one of the reasons why George Bush, rich, wealthy, capitalist, fascist, who's doing everything to destroy the U.S. Constitution and all that you and I and the members of our family have fought for, have given their lives and been wounded for, that man is destroying the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and everything that we have fought for and that we stand here today for. And because we have reached this millennium of the century, we have brought all of our skills, our talents, the technology to be a global community, sharing resources, economy, and human life and all of its value and worth with the peoples of the world. We must demand a new economy as we say no more war. Hell no, we won't go. No more war. Peace now, and create a new economy.
As a veteran of the U.S. Army, as an Arabic linguist serving in the Middle East in 1965 through 1967, for my son, who was a U.S. Navy search and rescue swimmer during the 1991 Gulf War, for my grandson, who is considering joining the U.S. services today, and as a 40-year U.S. DoD Middle East analyst, I say this is wrong.
I'm Ken Mayers from Santa Fe, New Mexico, home of Joan Duffy and Dottie Beatty. This is what I've got left. Apart from this Marine Corps tweed jacket I've got, this is what I've got left in 20 years in the Marine Corps. It's going in the bag. This has been a great day, but now the hard work begins. We've all got to go home and talk to our neighbors and our co-workers and the others who don't understand yet. We've got to treat them with respect. We've got to understand they're laboring under fear that this administration has worked very hard to create in the American public. We have to understand that and approach them understanding that and help them see the light.
I was with a delegation, Code Pink. We went to Baghdad. And I look at this and I see the people that we went, we talked with, we danced with, we ate with. They were friends. They say, why are you doing this? Don't bomb us. We love you. So I put this in memory of us.
Okay. All right.
My name is Sharon Kufeld, and I served in the Air Force in 1969 through 71. My family has served in the wars in this country ever since the Revolutionary War. My father served in World War II as a Marine, in Saipan and various other places, and in Korea at the Chosin Reservoir. He is currently trying to get VA benefits, and they are refusing him.
All right.
I'm Steve
Geiger. I flew 181 missions as a B-52 navigator over North and South Vietnam. Funny thing happened on the way here today. I have no problem paying reverence at the Vietnam Memorial, but when I go near Congress, I'm overcome with revulsion. I cannot stand to be near that institution. It's a Congress of cowards.
Yeah.
We need to turn our anger into votes. In 2004, we have got to change this country. This is a replica. I wish I had the real ones with me. These are the wings that I'm saying that I flew with. These chicken hawks wrap themselves in the flag. There is no flag big enough to cover the shame of the murder of innocent civilians and individuals.
That's right.
My father served 25 years in the United States Army, from 1940 to 1965. World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He had 2 silver stars, 2 bronze stars, and 2 purple hearts, and 10 rows of ribbons. 3 of my uncles served in the last segregated unit in the United States Army in 1951, the 65th Infantry of Puerto Rico. They were all sent to Korea to fight in the Korean War, and were one of the most decorated units in the Korean War. Myself and my brother, we served during the Vietnam era. My family has a long history of military service to this country. I am an American, and I am proud to be an American. I am a veteran, and I am proud to be a veteran. I received this medal, like many of you. This is the National Defense Medal. I'm going to return this medal on my father's name, my uncle's name, and in my name, because I am still in defense of my country. Thank you very much.
This is for you, Dad. My father, wounded World War II vet, who put myself and my family through the horrors of the war that he died with in his head. And I come here today to say, Dad, I forgive you and I love you.
Right.
My name's John Murray.
My name's Larry McGuire. This is a note I wrote for the next Iraqi child to die, because I figure that kid has got no less claim on life than my own 4-year-old granddaughter who smiles at me every day. And we've all got grandkids. These kids in Iraq got the same claims as ours do. We got to see it that way.
That's right.
I'm Sally Osterling. This is my brother, Bill Fricke, Sergeant Bill Fricke. He died in World War II. He was with the 10th Mountain Division. And he was a fervent believer in participatory democracy. He would be pleased to be here today. So I'm going to put his picture in.
All right.
My name is Deborah Clark. I served in the U.S. Army between 1976 and 1984. I was a special agent in the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command, and the necklace I've been wearing around my neck is a miniature replica of the CID badge that I used to carry. The Army CID is responsible for investigating war crimes during time of war. George Bush is a war criminal!
My name is Carl Johnson. I served in the Air Force Reserve during the first Persian Gulf conflict at McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. I was not activated for service in the Gulf War, but I still feel that I'm an accomplice to a crime that continues to this day after 12 years of sanctions and continued bombing on Iraq. And I very reluctantly give up this picture of a little Iraqi girl. I don't know what her name is, but I feel that she represents many children in Iraq who are in danger right now. And I'm just hoping that she's safe, and I'm hoping that we can all work together to have a more peaceful world. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Leonora Winters. I served for over 20 years, Lieutenant Colonel in the Army, worked with the DIA, Southeast Asia area. It's time for everybody to step up to the plate now. There are no leaders per se, we are the leaders. I'm putting in 35 cents. 35 cents because that's how we used to keep our brass straight. 35 cents. I think we all need to make sure our brass is straight. Yeah. And I'm putting in 35 cents so we can do that.
All right.
My name is Arnold Peterson. I was in the Second World War. I trained as a radar mechanic and operator for B-29s. I was fortunate in the war coming to an end when we were getting ready to move out. Since that time, some 40-some years ago, my feelings about life have changed enormously. I'm against violence and violence that leads to killing other people. And looking at the problems of our country today, I feel very emboldened by the presence of all of you. I think that we have to look beyond now and look forward to a world governed by the peoples of the world. I am very much for the United Nations moving it into becoming a government rather than a forum for the United States and its policies. So I have some medals, a good conduct medal, marksman medal that I got, you know. I held on to them. My dog tags are still there. I'm turning them in. And I'm going to turn in this card. It says World Citizen. I wish we become world citizens so that we can enjoy life around the world. Thank you.
My name is Tom Kiley. I served in the Berlin Brigade at the end of the Vietnam War. I was there up close. I've seen what a society is like when they have a docile press that is just a mouthpiece for the government. I've seen what a rubber stamp legislature is like. That's just a mouthpiece for the government. They got rid of that. We should stop trying to adopt that. If your ideas can't stand public debate, public scrutiny, and an airing in the press, then they're no good, and they will ruin your country. I didn't bring with me any of my medals or anything, but I just drank this bottle of water, and it's empty. And that's what I think about the courage of the people in the Congress right now. So that's what I'm putting in this bag.
I'm Bob Fields. I was in Vietnam 1967-68, Army Infantry. I don't have anything fancy to say, and I don't have anything fancy to put in there. I just have a little note I scribbled. It's a memory of my friend Jim, shot in the head, killed by a VC soldier in 1967. And it's also a memory of that unknown VC soldier who I shot in the head and killed moments later. And I think it's time we stop this madness.
All right.
My name is Dorothy Whitaker. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Arrived during Tet of '68. Spent a year, mostly sopping up blood, carrying limbs off of operating room tables. But I spent 6 months taking care of the children, the Vietnamese children who were bombed by napalm and white phosphorus, and I'd like to dedicate this penny, which is will represent the Bronze Star, which I refused when I left Vietnam.
All right.
My name is Charlie Richardson. This is Nancy Lesson. We have 2 pictures to put in this body bag today. The first one is my son Joe, our son Joe, who's currently in the Persian Gulf. And the second one is a picture of Iraqi children who are currently in harm's way. We want this war to end.
Thank you for everything that you're doing for Joe, for the Iraqi children, for this country, and for the world.
My name is Carol Moore. I'm from Washington, D.C. I have had a lot of military in my family. The first one I know about was Colonel James Barrett, who was the head of the militia at Concord on April 19th, 1775, the first battle of the American Revolution. 201 years later, in 1976, the IRS told me I owed them $1,200, and I said, I'm not paying for any more wars.
Yeah, very rich to see if I could get some words out of just nervousness and head spinning at the same time. Vietnam, 69 to 70. I could consider myself to be a survivor of that war. The war actually began for me in 1969. It continues to this day. The war began. I've committed my life to my brothers and sisters that died, not only American, but the Vietnamese that died in that war. I've dedicated my life to doing what I could do to stop that from happening again. I've written a note of love and support for those that are in uniform, for all the Iraqi children, the civilians, adults, whatever, that have not asked for our help, that have not asked us to be liberated, and that are going to suffer and die as a result of our invasion. And I just didn't bring any medals down, but I did bring my war is not the answer button.
All right. I think that the consequences of this war may affect history for a very long time to come, and mostly in a terrible way. Just possibly, there is grounds for hope now in the worldwide mobilization. The world has never seen anything like this, and it's possible that more people will now begin thinking about peace and organizing together to make it a peaceful world. There will really be a change for the better, but it'll have to counteract great forces of change for the worst, a wave of hatred for the United States, and I'm afraid a wave of terrorism which may well cause police-state measures to be fully realized in this country. I now am hopeful, though, that those police-state measures will meet with very effective organized resistance from the people. What I've seen in the last month is very encouraging.
If you go to the dictionary and you look at the definition of patriot, a patriot is a person who loves his country so much that they are willing to disagree with their government. The original patriots, Tom Paine and them, they stood up against the British government and they became patriots. Now we today stand against our government because we know that our government is wrong. It makes us the patriots, not them.
I'm still glad that we live in a country where we can do this. In Washington, D.C., it's my first time here, and maybe my only time here, and I got to come here and speak my opinion, and that's what this country is so great about, and we have to make sure that nothing can take that sort of freedom away. That's what a government of by and for the people is about. So I'm still proud of my country, that we still have the ideals here. We still have a lot of people fighting for them, and I just want to help get other people informed so they'll join the fight too, and we'll change the government that way.
Purely it's the same straight thing. It's the same continuity. It's continue. I mean, like they lied to us about Vietnam, they're lying to us now.
Okay, now what do you think people can do about this to change this?
They can come out and do what I'm doing, witnessing, write to their congressmen, witness with their bodies, stand around the street corners and hold signs, tell their friends to come out against the war, put bumper stickers on their car, wear buttons.
War will mean that soldiers die. War will mean that mothers cry. War will mean that mothers cry. Am I right or wrong? You're right. Am I right or wrong? You're right. Bush and Cheney talk or talk. Bush and Cheney talk or talk. But we know they're chicken hawks. But we know they're chicken hawks. We've already been to war.
With the Delta Company, 1st Battalion, 1st Marine, United States Marine Corps in Vietnam, 1967 and 1968.
Where did you serve in Vietnam?
I was with the 52nd Infantry, and we were around Cu Chi and Xi'an and down in that area.
I served in Vietnam with the American Red Cross, so I'm a civilian veteran of war.
In Vietnam. Yeah, 2 Purple Hearts. B, yes.
I was in Korea 52 to 53. I enlisted in 50. I was in the Air Force in a K-9 unit.
You were sir. 68 to 70. USMC.
USMC?
USMC.
That's my flag. My country's in trouble. It's under distress.
but he don't understand why they never done him or you or me no wrong. Won't you please tell my mother? Tell my mother about the state I'm in. Will you please tell my mother? Will you please tell my mother? Tell my mother about the state I'm in. Tell her pray for the boy laying down in Vietnam. Won't you please? Won't you please? Won't you please forgive me for my sin? But he don't understand why they never done him or you or me no wrong. Won't you please tell my mother? Tell my mother about the state I'm in. Will you please tell my mother? Will you please tell my mother? Tell my mother about the state I'm in.